So hello, and welcome back again to this week's show of the relationship show, which will soon be called, what's the new name?
The Divorce
The
Recovery
Divorce
Show.
Recovery
Yeah.
Show with Diane Valiquette. Today we're going to be covering Diane's going to be talking to you about when's the best time to tell your kids that you're getting separated. So last week we covered alienation and stopping the alienation and some of the games that people play, interference with their kids and turning their kids against the other parent. It touched a lot of chords or painful points in people's lives. And today we're going to be delving in to actually speaking to the kids and making the announcement. So welcome, Diane, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Happy Mother's Day. Hope everybody, especially the single parents who got to spend the day with their children, have a great day and, really teaching the kids how to give, right? For me, it was really important. So because there was no other party in my life, I would tell the kids, how do you give? And so what do you do when it's a special Mom's Day? You take crayons and you take cardboards and you make your own cards and you do it so that on those special days, because they don't have, someone to go shopping with them or because they don't have somebody else directing it, that I would really teach my kids how to give, right? And how to be present to those special days and how they can be in charge of those special days, even, as little as 4, 5, 6. And, and then it went from, the cards to having toast, to having a breakfast, to, and also they make plans. I was in Toronto to see and spent it with my daughter that lives in Toronto. But it's really important, we're talking about kids today. And people say, well, the kids didn't really do anything for me. Well, you know what? All of those things, like all the kids being present and doing cards or doing things for you on special days like that has to be taught to kids. Some people think, oh, well, they just don't, or they just don't know how. Of course they don't know how, but you have to really get to a place where you're teaching people how to be with you. And if you can't start with your kids on how to be with you and how to recognize special days and do special things, then they'll never learn, right? And so again, it's your job because you're separated, and their dad, if you're not in a great relationship with dad, he's not going to do anything. Now, I know parents who are in good relationships and they co-parent very well. And so the dad, the week that he has them or the weekend he has them, goes and shops and buys little cards or buys things, and the kids make stuff so that when it comes to Mother's Day and they're there with mom, dad's already participated in who you are as a mom to his children. So this is, and that's, for me, that's the best separation. It's the best, way to be in a separated couple, is really helping your children celebrate each other and each parent. So that's for special occasions and Mother's Day and so on. But I want to talk about how do you and when do you tell the children? For me, it's always about, don't tell the kids until you actually have a plan, right? So, people will come in to see me and we're doing a mediation and they'll say, how do we tell the kids? Well, we don't tell the kids until you know who's buying the house or if anyone's buying the house. If you're selling the house, obviously you got to tell them before the sign goes up, but all those things need to be cleaned up. Like, where are they going to move to? Who's renting? Who's buying? Are we both buying? And make sure that all of that's in place, because the very first things children will say or ask when they're being told that, we're separating, we're divorcing, and, we're going to be in 2 houses. They're going to want to know where we're going to live and what is our room going to look like? And is it close to my school or is it close to my friends? And that's usually, after the shock, and sometimes they're not even shocked, that's what they want to know, is what's going to happen to me. And so you need to not say anything to the kids until you know what's going to happen to them. And so, for example, let's say dad's keeping the house and is buying mom out of the house, so that when you tell the children and say, daddy's going to stay in the house, and then me and you and your sister, your brother, we're going to go shopping for a house. And so include them in it, include them in the shopping of the house, and So they can walk in and say, oh, my bedroom's going to be there, and that's what it's going to look like, so that they're part of the planning of the exit of their matrimonial home, of what they know, right? So involving the kids is always, to me, really good for them. I always say as well is stay the closest to the truth as you possibly can. So if your children are like 10 to 15, 16, let's say, and you're sitting down and you're saying, okay, you know, your mom and I have come to a place where we know that we need to separate, and you know, your mom's going to stay in the house, daddy's going to go shopping, we're all going to go shopping for the new house. They're going to ask why, right? At that age, they want to know why. And what parents don't understand, and I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of people who would disagree with me, but you know, the experience, again, from the child and youth worker who sees kids of divorce, and that's her only practice, is kids from divorce. And the animosity of being lied to is probably the worst thing you can do to your children. Because if a child's asking the questions like, did daddy stop loving you, or did mommy stop loving you? Is it because mommy has a boyfriend, or is it because daddy has a girlfriend? They know the answer, right? Our children are very, very intuitive, and they listen and they hear. And if they're saying, is there because daddy loves this other girl, or because mommy, they know the answer. And so if you say, oh no, it's just because we both decided, yeah, you know what, we both decided, but mom's, you know, having a breakdown, and she's crying, and she's having a hard time dealing with life because daddy's actually leaving for someone else. Don't lie. Don't lie, because at 16, they're going to come back and say, you know, when you told us that, you know, dad and you didn't just love each other, well, I know it wasn't true, because I know that he had a girlfriend, because the first time we went to see dad, we went to meet this friend of his. And then they'll put it all together, you know. And today, I mean, I'm saying 16, they'll put it all together at 12, at 13, even 10 years old. They're going to put it all together. And then they're going to feel like you lied to them. And as parents, the worst thing you can do to your children is lie to them, right? You can say, this is not something we can talk about right now, and you know, I'll try to explain it to you later. Or this is not something that we want to talk about, and we just want you guys to be okay, and we just want you guys to, you know, go shopping for the house and do, you know, do these things first, and maybe after say, okay, so let's sit down and then we'll really talk about what's happening, right? So you don't have to spew it out all at once, but you need to keep them informed. You need to keep them informed, and you need to keep closest to the truth as you can. I mean, obviously, if they're 3, 4, 5 years old, they're just going to make sure their pain is going to be, when am I going to get to see daddy, and when am I going to get to see mommy, right? But any age after 8 years old, you need to tell them. You need to tell them what happened. And again, closest to the age of reasoning, what happened and why you guys decided, and who's the one that decided. Because a lot is one of the questions, who decided this? And it's not to turn a parent against the other parent, because they'll love you no matter what. But if they're asking who decided, is because they know who decided. Right? And people say, well, no, Dan, they're just asking those questions. No. If a child asks a question, a lot of the times, most of the time, 90% of the time, they know the answer. And so to me, just stay as honest as you can, and stay as clean and as open as you can. And I also want to really, really stress is that, you know, a parent, or a parent that is being left for someone else, is not going to be okay. They're going to be broken down. They're going to have, you know, a whole 6, 7 months of crying and trying to do the best they can with their pain, with their kids' pain, and then their pain. And so they need to understand. They need to understand that, you know, mommy didn't want this to happen. And it's really, really hard, because daddy, you know, loves somebody else right now, but he loves you guys more than the somebody else, but mommy's having a really hard time. And that's okay, because if mommy's having a hard time like that too, they're feeling it, and they need to know that it's okay to grieve. It's okay for them to have a hard time. It's okay for them to be angry. All of their feelings need to be okay. And if you guys hide all of your feelings, then how can they get to a place where they're okay with their feelings when you're hiding your feelings? So really understand that keeping the children as informed as possible, and on all of the steps, they'll feel a lot safer, and they'll feel better about asking questions, opening up, and dealing with their emotions. I often see clients who've been separated, let's say 2 years. And the child, after 2 years, has done really well, and there was no reaction when we separated. And now 2 years later, oh my God, like she's crying, and she's not doing good in school, and she's having a really, really hard time. And so when we see children like that, well, I don't see, when Tara sees children like that, they always say to her, we couldn't feel it right away because I needed to help mommy, or I needed to help daddy. And so they also need to know that even though you're hurting and even though you're crying, it's not their job to make you okay. It's not their job to make you happy or not happy, and that you need to explain to them, or bring them to someone with you and just say, I'm just having a really hard time, and it's okay if you start to have a hard time now, because now you feel that I'm stronger and I'm better, so now you're having your breakdowns. And we'll see that happen a lot, right? Whereas the kids seem to go through it no problem, and when their parent starts to be stronger, that's when the kid starts to fall apart, which then gives them permission to fall apart, because they couldn't fall apart while you were falling apart. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Total sense.
So do you have any questions?
It's no, I don't have any questions. I was just like, right now, it seems to me like you're explaining what needs to be in place in order to tell your kids. So, yeah, I guess there's still when's the best time, really, because that's a lot of things to have in place to be able to answer all the questions, like where we're going to live and who's going to, all those kind of things, because sometimes when you're making that decision, you don't have all those answers yet.
So don't tell the kids till you have all those answers, right? You can say, mommy and daddy are having a hard time right now, and we're going through some stuff, and we're going to make decisions, but we're not sure yet. So, and tell the truth, right? If they ask, like, are you and mommy getting a divorce, or are you and daddy getting a divorce? You're going to say, we're thinking about it, we're talking about it, but we need to have more information, and we need to make some decisions before we decide that, right? Because they may also feel it in the house as well, right? But until you say, like, I don't want people to say, yes, we are, because the minute yes, we are, where are we going to live? What's going to happen to us? Who's going to take care of us? All of that kind of stuff, right? And so really kind of calling and saying, we're not sure yet. We don't know who's going to do what, where things are happening. And as soon as we know, we'll let you know, right? Excuse me, because the older the kids are, they're not crazy. Like if the kids are 15 and 17, and you're all of a sudden now not sleeping in the same room and one sleeping in the basement, they know something's going on, right? So they're going to want to know, what's happening here and what's going on. And you can then say, we're in therapy, or we're doing mediation because we're, thinking about separating, but we just don't know the answers of where everything's going to be yet. Just don't lie to kids, right? That's the bottom line, is don't lie to them. Yeah. You just don't lie to kids, right?
It goes underground anyway, and if they've already known, you've just put words in for them.
Exactly. And you know what the thing is that you're making them deny their intuition, right? Because kids have intuition, and kids know things. And by you lying to them, so now you're lying, and their intuition is being wrong, but it's never wrong. And so they don't know how to, as adults or as they grow older, how to connect back to their intuition, because you lied to their intuition, right?
Well, would you suggest that when people are going to tell their children this, they do it together, or do they do this separately, or
It
what's the
depends.
best way to do it?
You
Okay.
know what? And it depends. I prefer if they can do it together. And I always say that, right? If you're doing it together and they ask, like, who wanted this? And, mom's crying and dad's like, yes, this is what we're going to do. And they say, well, why is it daddy or is it mommy? Because I'll ask those things. And you have to say, daddy decided that that's what he needed to do. And that's where, it is happening, or mommy decided, because they can feel it as well. Right? The parent that's more detached and is going, yes, this is what we've decided. He's clean. He's decided. He's done it, been preparing for 6 months, a year, and you just got hit with it. Right? Or vice versa.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to keep it all together when you're telling your children either. And that's okay. Right? That's okay. I always say, you know what? Bring a box of Kleenex and everybody cries, and then say, okay, so how are we going to get better from this place? Right? And I used to having like crying parties with my girls. Like, it's really, really hard. Also, people don't understand. Like, my kids were 5 and 2, and the first time that their dad picked them up, brought them straight to his girlfriend's place. Right.
Yeah.
And so what does that say? Right. So my 5-year-old, she made dinner, I guess. And, she said, I'm not eating that because my mom's burgers are better than yours. And so she's reacted right from get go because she doesn't feel safe. She doesn't know who this person is. She hasn't really reconnected with her dad. Right. And it's like, who is this person? Right. And then you're saying to the kids, well, this is my girlfriend, or later. And at first you said it was just a friend. Well, hello. So you straight up lied, right? And kids today will say, you know what, you straight up lied to me, right? And then there's a lack of respect, and that then starts some kind of rebellion.
Yeah, and that can last for years.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So I think, if anybody has questions throughout the week, or just, I think, Rebecca, they can ask questions in the segment, and then we'll go answer them.
Yeah, they can. And the replay, they can just put their questions in the comment box, and then we'll pay attention. And if they need to have like a sidebar conversation, they can connect with you, right?
Okay, great. Okay. All right, so I think we're done. And next weekend we're not going to be, or next Monday we're not going to be on Buzz TV because we're going to have a long weekend. I'm going to go to the cottage, and so the week after, I think I want to talk about the dark hole. I call it the black hole of hell, and that's a lot of the beginning, or the first, when you're being told that someone's leaving you or that you're making a decision. That will be the topic, is how to really honor yourself in this dark times.
Okay, well, thanks so much. Good segment today. Have a good long weekend coming up. I forgot. I'm happy about that.
I know. It's so good. All right. Thank you, Rebecca.